Welcome to the African Poetry Theater's 6th Annual Black History Month Film Festival 2021, hosted by the Museum of the Moving Image and me, Samson Styles. Now, this festival is different from other festivals because there's no awards, categories, winners, or losers. This is an exploration into the journey of the Black creative, so I hope you enjoy the celebration. Our next filmmaker is from Hudson Valley, New York, and her name is Tiffany Joy Butler. She's the media instructor for the Museum of the Moving Image, and she's the host to our Black History Month panel. Tiffany?
Hi, I'm Tiffany Joy, and I'm a filmmaker and curatorial assistant at the Museum of the Moving Image. And the short teaser that you're about to see is about an activist group that is fighting against a pharmaceutical company that is selling Exene, a toxic skin bleaching product.
Hi, I'm here for the position. Are you still hiring?
Sure.
I'm Ken.
Addy. So, how'd you hear about us?
A local broadcast on IPFS.
Okay. How long were you on the Exene products?
About 2 years and 3.5 months.
Mira, que suerte. What's your take on reincarnation?
I'm most certain I'll be a common yellow throat in my next life.
It's possible. It's possible. Do you feel you have a healthy skepticism of doctors?
Not quite. I'm easily manipulated, but my skepticism is growing after my master's.
Oh, hey, have a seat.
How long will I be sitting? My back is actually hurting.
You know what? Let's go for a walk around the office, right? We'll see all four corners.
Perfect. Oh, and here's my resume.
So it says here that you have a master's in philosophy and comparative politics from Alfred University.
Yes, and I'm considering my PhD.
Don't you feel overqualified for this position?
Not really. Degrees at private institutions don't really matter much.
What do you think of this color combination? The mustard yellow with the aquamarine blue? I mean, wouldn't these complementary colors just be great right before your entire skin peels off its body?
It seems to work, but that's not my forte.
Are you a fan of researching the discriminatory distribution of health and wealth within the United States?
Absolutely, that's my thesis.
All right, well, take a siesta and meet me here at 2:45. Hola, Susie.
What's good in the news? Another absolute tragedy?
Or a victorious win.
What are the numbers today?
So there are 1,000 topical corticosteroids and glucocorticosteroids still in New York. Yesterday, we disposed of 500 containers. If we double that amount today, we're in the clear as soon as Governor Minor bans the trading of steroids in the state.
This never ends. Yesterday, I spoke to someone from Dover Plains who has hypertension, osteoporosis, and type 2 diabetes.
We're closer than we've ever been.
Her skin was peeling off her forearm in thick, large chunks.
Last year, we knocked on over 545,000 doors and gathered almost 2 million Exene products.
And in these 3 years, the governor is still taking us in circles. She's never gonna make a final decision.
Hello.
Hey, a real human. Are you from here?
No, I'm from Dover.
Ah, strange.
All right, let's talk about skin. All right, Ken, welcome on aboard.
Thank you kindly.
We need all hands on deck to defeat these devil advocates. Are you ready?
Okay, so Governor Minor, you might want to take notes.
Oh, do you have a pad?
Oh, I do.
Thank you kindly.
Okay. So, Governor Minor plans to meet with the board of directors today at Itsun to discuss the ban Exene product campaign. She promises to listen to all the evidence and make an informed decision by October 1st. That's in 4 days.
That's a little ambitious. What happens if she says no?
Well, then she makes our fight that much more difficult.
We have to find a way to put more pressure on the governor.
When do we speak to the constituents?
Right now. Come on, let's go.
Tiffany Joy here. I'm a curatorial assistant at the Museum of the Moving Image, and I'm happy to host this year's panel as part of African Poetry Theater's Black History Month Film Festival. This year, we will be discussing the future of Black cinema and the successes of Black independent filmmaking. Hi everyone, I'm Tiffany Joy, and I am a curatorial assistant at the Museum of the Moving Image, and I'm so excited to host and moderate this panel today. And today we're going to focus on the future of Black cinema, talking about the Renaissance happening in Black cinema and in television. And so yeah, I'm just going to ask guests here today to introduce themselves, and we can start off popcorn style. Samson, you want to start first?
Okay. How y'all doing? Thank you for having me. My name is Samson Styles. I'm a producer, director. I also edit, shoot. Was at BET. That's where I broke my bones at BET News. I was there for 10 years. And then in 2016, I started my own company, left BET, not by choice. I was forced out. But that was the best thing that happened to me because I became independent and, made my own brand. So now people know me as Samson Styles, not Samson Styles of BET. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Felicia, you want to go next?
Great. Hi, my name is Felicia Harden, and I'm a producer, director. You know what? I think if you're a Black filmmaker, you're just in every role. We can't even write down all the roles that we are. I'm actually also a practicing occupational therapist for like 30 something years. And so I've been doing therapy and making films for about 20 years. I came out of Howard University, and I'm just happy to be part of this panel.
Thank you. Yeah. Ayana, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ayanna Barber. I'm a producer and director. I'm currently on Jesus and Marrow as the coordinating producer. And then I've also done documentaries in the past. My last documentary, which I produced called Ballet After Dark, was premiered at Tribeca in 2019. I was also supervising producer on She Did That, which is currently streaming on Netflix. And yeah, I've just been doing, just like Felicia, you got to do it all. So I do a bit of everything. I produce, I direct, and my short film, which I directed, it was in Big Apple Film Festival. Wicked Queer. I work with a lot of narratives that are not traditional narratives that aren't necessarily given a platform, and I like to give voices to those types of stories. So that's me.
Awesome. And Tuffy, yeah, you want to share?
Hi, my name is Tubby Custell. I'm a casting director from New York. I've been a casting director for the better part of a quarter of a century. I've also been in front of the camera on various forms, from television to films, and I agree with everything that Felicia and Ayana and Samson said. We are multi-taskers. We don't have one role. We have all roles. We've been in front of the camera. We've been craft service. We've been everything. I've done it all, except for I can't do the polls, so please don't ask me to do that. My stripping days are far behind me. But otherwise, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, great, thank you. Yeah, that's true. You know, in filmmaking, especially in independent filmmaking, you have to do a bunch of different roles, and you're pretty much you know, one person crew most of the time when you're starting out. So yeah, I have a bunch of questions about your you know, production on set. My first question is, why do you believe it's important for you to tell your story? And I guess what stories you tell? I think, you know, Ayana mentioned, you know, the importance of stories that she tells. Why is it important also for Black filmmakers to tell our stories, you know, as Black people?
You know what? I was going to say, you know what? It's important for us to tell it because no one else is. Like literally no one else is going to tell our stories except for us. You know, I did a short film that's in the film festival entitled January 30th, and it was about a Black woman having breast cancer. No one else is telling that story. Nobody. And so if I don't tell it, other Black people, other Black women are walking around thinking, you know, that we don't get cancer or whatever they're thinking about that, because they don't have anything to look at. There's no example of anything. So if we don't tell these stories, they're not going to get made. So that's why it's so important for us to, and even if we're not the ones that are creating the stories, if we know someone that's doing, you know, doing something, we can support in other ways. You know, we don't have to be the ones that are writing the script and doing all these other pieces. There's a lot of ways to get into helping a filmmaker to tell stories that resonate with you.
It's also really important to piggyback off of that for us to tell our stories, because we want our stories to be told authentically in a way that it's from our narrative, it's from our perspective. And there's too many stories out there, and I reference a lot of things from the 80s, the 90s, where it's stories of Black people and people of color that are written by white writers and directed by white individuals. So it's really important to support our stories in a way that's most authentic to us, because honestly, it's representation is what matters in film. It matters to see, hey, there's a director that's a Black woman behind the camera, or it's a DP that's behind the camera, or the story is written about a little girl or a little Black boy that's the hero of the story. And that changes the narrative and it changes the future of our youth.
Yeah, and I agree with Ayana 100%, because sometimes our stories are told, but they're told from a narrative that doesn't represent us at all, and it's not factual. That's how you'll get, you know, somebody very fair-skinned and white playing Cleopatra, or being a pharaoh in Egypt. You know, if we don't tell it, it's gonna get misconstrued every time. And what goes out to the world is what's impressionable. So it's important for us to tell our stories, definitely. I have a documentary now that's on Netflix. It's called Crack, Cocaine, Corruption, and Conspiracy. And us being able to, even though it's a Netflix original, but being that we were able to come on board and give it the authenticity, that's what separates from other crack films, because we humanize all the people that was affected, from the drug dealers to the drug users and the people that may have been discarded as scum. Now you're looking at them as a real person. And the only way that that could have happened is if we took position and told our stories.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. Go ahead, Felicia.
No, I just said absolutely. I'm in the amen corner up here.
I have to be honest. What scares me about us as a people is, a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us, we get the opportunity, and then we sell our souls, and we allow the money to dictate our ownership, and it frustrates me as a filmmaker to sit on sets where, like, I just did a film that was amazing called The Harder They Fall with James Samuels, and Netflix really put their money where their mouth is and took care of us. But I've been on other projects where a beautiful black script was written by a beautiful black woman or black man, and then a producer comes along and they say, well, I'm gonna need you to, and then the authenticity goes out the window. It becomes a fragment of truth, and it becomes a story originally told by a black man or black woman, that suddenly a white man is like, well, I want to tell my perspective, and what should have been the Johnsons or the Jacksons becomes something like the Goldbergs that was on ABC last year or the year before, and it's depressing that they want our rhythm but not our blues. It's breaking my heart. It's really breaking my heart as a filmmaker.
But Tuffy, do you believe that the reason why we sometimes have to do this is because the people that are in power are not the people that look like us, because we have not been given that opportunity? I've seen it happen time and time again, where we are not the producers, the executive producers, or we're not in charge of distribution, So there are now new initiatives. I think people are seeing that it's more of a problem than what we've been letting on. There are new initiatives where there's programs that are happening to get people into those, trained for those positions, instead of having us be just, hey, I plateaued as an AD. Hey, I plateaued as a production manager. It's taken that next step because we're not always, as people of color, are given those opportunities.
I totally agree with that. And that's why I love when I see people of color pooling their money together to not just create the content, but to create the distribution. I love that. We need more of that. And yes, they are trying. There are networks that are trying, but there are still networks that aren't. They're employing us, and they're still taking our ideas and running with them. But we have a lot of work to do. But we also have to say no. There are sometimes we have to say no to the check, and we all want the bag, but we can't always. Sometimes you just have to say no. But I do love the fact that I've seen great changes in the last 3 decades that I've been around this. Great changes. Yes, time has changed a lot, and I'm grateful for it, for us all, for our children, for our future, for our story. Very grateful.
You know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Felicia.
You know what? I think I don't know how to say this without okay. So I don't know if we should so necessarily be trying to conform to their system. And I think that's the problem. I think we need to put more brain power and more energy and money into creating our own system. The system historically has not serviced us at all. They're not thinking about us, okay? But we keep trying to be part of their system. If we just took this energy and moved it to our own system and created all these other things, because, I feel like that's how we've always done stuff. I'm talking back from the beginning of time. Okay, I'm a producer on a film called A.P.T, where we look at just economics, but we start from Egyptian times or Kemetic times. We start in the beginning of time, and we look at economics all throughout until like right now, right? And so when we're looking at the beginning of time, we created all systems. And so we know how to work together. We know how to pull resources together. We already know how to do that. And so I'm not really too much interested in you know, like what they're doing over there, because it's filled with a lot of corruption, a lot of just a lot of things you have to do that you just shouldn't have to do, that go up, you know, that go against your moral compass. And so I'm a proponent of figuring out and having think tanks. And if you want to give us money, that's fine. We can take a little money and we can try to create our own thing, but over here. You know, I think that's a better way to go.
And also, a lot of the gatekeepers now are people of color in a lot of these networks that are greenlighting. Specifically, Black women really hold a lot of position in gatekeeping right now. And one thing that has to be done also is that those people that's in position of gatekeeping don't do what was done to them and start silencing other voices. Like, no, this has to be, because I'm gonna give you an example, not mentioning any networks or anything like that, but I was bringing a project to them and, you know, they asked, can I make the main character bisexual to fulfill, you know, to try to please everybody, or for maybe their own purpose. But I'm like, this role is for a straight heterosexual man. This is his story. But it was like, it was just getting silenced. Can you put some more of this femininity in there? Can you make him like this or like that? If you can do that, you don't even have to come with the Bible, the deck and all of this. If your synopsis is right and you change this character to be more like this, I think we could get it greenlit. And I had to pass, you know? So, and that was from my own sister, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's also a issue too. A lot of the gatekeepers, even when I was at B.E.T, and I've seen that a lot too, people that work in the industry that may be working in the network, they have good ideas. Like, you know, they working there, but they have other big plans and they pitching to them and they giving them these good ideas and it's not being greenlit, you know. I don't like him, you know, for whatever reason. I don't like her. She said something smart. And we get emotionally driven. We bring that into the work and that affects what people see, you know, what's being actually greenlit. So I think that has to, like, we really do, like you said, have to unite on all fronts and do what's best for the culture and what's best for the storytelling. Because really it's the people that see it and that's coming up after us that's going to be influenced by what we doing now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, you can keep, this is so great. I really, you know, interesting conversations happening. And I think that, yeah, it's important to have, you know, as much control over the story as possible. And also, you know, it's great to see bisexual characters, but I understand, you know, you want to keep it authentic,
Right.
to your story. I have, I'm interested. I know Samson and everyone's here is really passionate about, you know, the themes behind your work, the themes and the, you know, messages behind your work. And I'm curious of, you know, what themes and messages are you drawn to, you know, or Tuffy as a casting talent director, how do you, you know, how does your philosophies pick, you know, the right character or the right actor or actress for a certain role? You know, what draws you to the projects even that you you know, been a part of? Like what's I'm just curious what kind of themes and messages you're drawn to as filmmakers.
Can I address that?
Yeah.
I love all storylines. I love them all. I read scripts all the time. I don't always say yes to a project based on the script. Sometimes I say yes to a project based on the director, based on the writer, based on the producers, based on the cast that they're asking me to try to provide. There are some scripts that are better than others. I recently reached out to two actor friends of mine because I saw a one page for a script that I thought was amazing, but I had to tell the writer, I pray that you don't you know, vary, because she was telling me some really great things that she really saw for this script, but they were part of another script that she was writing that she kind of decided to put on on the back burner while she finished this up. And I told her that my concern was that the narrative was going to take her away from the storyline, because the storyline was so good. And again, like almost like what Samson just said, she started feeling like she needed to create more sex and more sexual overtone in stories. And I told her the bad part of that is that's part of the reason why HBO kind of became the network it was, because they could get away with sexual overtones and all kinds of sexual storylines. I couldn't watch HBO anymore because it seemed like their commercials were everybody was having sex on every show on HBO. And I was like, what? Why can't I just watch TV where I actually enjoy actors doing the work, not just laying with each other? I don't need to see her breast and his chest, and I don't need that. I mean, I know when I was 20, I was horny. I'm thankfully not horny like that anymore, but sex doesn't always sell. Sometimes it offends, and sometimes you like the hint. You like the challenge of trying to create those images in your own head, not because all the images are right in front of you. So I love storylines that give me a chance to use my imagination. So I am constantly saying yes to those projects that challenge me as a viewer, not just as a casting director, because I want to be challenged. I want to be able to watch a show with my daughter, who's only 12 years old, and say she can watch this without 400 curse words in a 10-page monologue, or dialogue, whatever the case may be. I really do like good content that is kind of wholesome, not perfectly wholesome because the world isn't that, but I do like dialogue that actually allows me to think, have a discussion, have a debate, but not necessarily be like, yeah, I'm about to watch, like I just watched Malcolm and Marie last night. Excellent. And I love the fact that as sexual as it didn't have to be. They didn't make it more so. It was really well done in that regard. I don't know. I like the hidden aspects. I do. I really appreciate that as a viewer and as a casting director. So I'm drawn to all projects. All projects, doesn't matter to me. I like it to be right, and I will cast it however they want it, if necessary, if the budget is there, or if the work is, if the written word is so powerful that I can get any actor on it. I will do that. I will go above and beyond to make it work.
At the end of the day, it is about story. So I hear you on that. It is about the stories that we tell. Myself personally, I don't mind a little sex. So I typically steer towards narrative. If sex is part of the narrative, that's part of the narrative. It doesn't have to be overt, but if that's part of the story, then I feel like to keep the story authentic, that would be something that I would include into that information. But I also feel like with me personally, I champion for stories of others that don't necessarily have that voice. And for a really long time, that's been Black people. So I am very pro-Black. I'm very pro-minority, even if it's not a Black story, Asian, Middle Eastern, doesn't matter. Like, I'm very pro seeing brown people succeeding and seeing their stories told, because we have been marginalized in a way that we haven't necessarily been able to tell our stories. So I'm also a big proponent of LGBTQIA films. Like, I feel like their stories are also super important, and I'm happy to tell those. Now, I personally do not identify in that category, but when I have worked on stories that are of that narrative, I always work with people that do identify. So then the story can still be told authentically, because I don't feel like it's my place to be able to tell that story, but I can help get that story made. So I'm always supporting other filmmakers, and that's the beauty of the film industry, is that you support your friends and you support their projects, and that's, even if the narrative doesn't fit you, like, you can also always find somebody that can work with you and be able to help you to tell that story authentically.
History and relationships. I love movies about history, and I love movies about relationships, Black people loving people, and however messy, how beautiful, all of that. I love those type of stories. And as I was sitting here listening to Ayana's speaking, I was thinking about all my past projects. So I'm like, yeah, they've all been authentic, Black stories, but they usually kind of fall into one of those two categories. It's either history where I'm learning something, because that's always fun, and then relationships.
I'm just like a story buff, period. If it's a good story, it doesn't matter. I like stories that's just authentic and true. If it's about the Appalachians, white people that's poor and how they go about living their life, and I would be interested. I would want to watch it. I would want to see how they live, as long as it's authentic. That goes to any ethnic group, as long as it's pure and it's true and it's something that's authentic. I get with it, So I'm that type of. But for me personally, I like to deal with issues that's affecting our communities. Like I have a documentary, another one coming out Tuesday, February 16th. It's called Killing Beef, Gun Violence in the Black Community. It'll be released globally. And that's something I can relate to. I've been shot, I've been in that lifestyle. And to be able to do a documentary on the causes, effects, and solutions, something that's like a call to action that could make a change, and a young cat could watch it and learn something, and it help deter him from going down that path of destruction. That's rewarding for me. So those type of films I like to produce and like to direct. But as far as what I like to see anything that's good.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you everyone for sharing. This is like amazing. You've all done really amazing films and television productions too. And I have a question about television productions versus film productions. And also I wanted to talk more about, your favorite or your, Black cinema that has influenced you. So I guess I'd like to start with that question, and then maybe you could go back to television versus film. So what are your favorite recent or classic films by Black filmmakers? What has influenced you as a filmmaker, or as being part of the production of films and television? Has there anything that want to highlight in the legacy of Black cinema and Black television?
With hard questions.
Yeah, that's not.
Well, we don't have to. Yeah. If no one.
Well, I'll start off by saying that the first film that I seen all my people in was Alex Haley, Roots.
Oh, you took mine.
We could share.
We'll share it.
Okay. That did it for me at a very young age. Being able to relive history like that, and then the impact that it had on me growing up, like showing, like that was the film that actually put me in the place of where my ancestors actually had to go through. And then it was kind of mandated. It'd come on back when I was in school at that time. We had to watch it. We had to do reports on it and things of that nature. So that's one of my favorites to the day. And then, Spike Lee, of course, all his films, the Hughes brothers, just all the classics that we watch, even with Ice Cube, man, his Fridays, I enjoy it all because it's, like I said, there's the authentic part of it that you can relate to. Like, man, that's like my aunt right there. You know, that's my uncle. Like, that's just how they, you know, that you're able to relate, you're able to put somebody in the place of, and you don't look at it and say like, it don't happen like that. That's corny. You know, Black people don't talk like that, or they don't move and shake like that, you know? So, yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
So I want to touch upon Alex Haley Roots, and I personally love that film. I think the whole series is just like amazing. But primarily, I'm a Virginian, and in Virginia, they don't always tell you history as they want you to see it. It's very, very white, considering what the perspective of all the people in color that are in history. So to see that film, it really had me being like, wow, this is what we went through. This is what actually happened. And I don't know if you guys are know about, like, in the South, like when I was growing up, they would take you to a plantation and you would learn about how the slaves lived, and they made it seem like it was fun, and it wasn't fun at all. I remember my mom saying to me at one point, if you have to go to Sully Plantation, you will not be churning butter, you will not be touching cotton, you will not be doing any of that. You will just stand there if they make you go. But she's like, I'm not making you go. I'll pull you from school that day. But yeah, like, so that was a real depiction. And it was really, for me personally, because of the way that I was learning about history, it wasn't told from that perspective. And so it was just very interesting. And it really left like an imprint on me on learning about Black people in general and what we've been through.
Yeah, so mine was Sankofa, Haile Gerima. Because he showed us being enslaved, then he showed us fighting back. And he was like, that's the only film to date that showed us whipping white folks' ass. And so I was, because I remember seeing Roots thinking, oh, I'm never going to see this again. It was traumatizing because I was just like, I think maybe I was too young. I don't know. But then I read the book. I read Alex Haley's book, and I was like, okay. But I think for me, when I saw Sankofa, Haile Gerima, I was like, yes. Between that film and this is not a Black film, that had all the Black people in it though. The Wiz. Oh my God.
We're waiting for someone to bring that up.
Like the Wiz, like hands down. Like I'm so mad that Sidney Lumet made that film. I was just like, Kenny just had a Black person standing next to him because that film was it was
amazing.
Everything.
It was amazing.
And it was in my home. Okay, so I'm from Detroit, but New York, when I was born, I was like, I should have been from New York. I don't know what happened. I'll probably have a conversation with God later when I get there, but I should have been from New York. And so for that film to be shot in New York, it's everything to me. I look at it every single time it's on TV. I have it on VHS, have it on DVD. I have the Broadway version. Yeah.
Yes. And it was shot at Kaufman Astoria Studios. Yeah, too. It's like Queen's production.
The World Trade Center. Like it's so many different. I mean, it's like one of those films that it's just beautiful. It just takes New York in such a way. It's beautiful.
It's one of those films that I pull a gift from every single time. Like a friend says something, I'm like, brand new day.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I had the pleasure of working with Sidney Lumet, the director. I did a show with him for 2 seasons called what the heck was it called? 100 Center Street. We did it for A&E. It was A&E's first original program. And I did casting on it, and I actually did a little acting on it as well. But the first day I met Sidney, about 6 months before we started the show, I asked him to autograph my DVD of The Wiz. And when I pulled it out, he was very surprised. He was like, a lot of people don't like the fact that I directed that. I was like, I get that. He said, and I don't even like my work on it. It was the first time he had dealt with blue screen. It was a lot of new stuff to him. And he felt like there was a lot of stuff missing as far as people of color. So he kept changing that. and adding more people of color to the cast, which I love that about him. And the fact that he was Jewish, you know, they're our brethren on the other side to an extent. But it was a great conversation, and I told him that he doesn't understand how that film mesmerized us as children. I mean, I was 10 when that came out, and I actually was in the studio with my sister, who she did background on it, doing the kazoo for Miss One scene, and they actually well, my mom says, I don't remember it, but they asked me to go in the studio and just scream and all kinds of stuff because I was young and had a decent voice. But my sister worked on it, so I was there for a lot of that. And then I drive around New York all the time. So all those locations are locations that I've been to. And yes, if you go into Carpenter Story Studios in the basement, you can still see pieces of the set from where Michael Jackson was in the crow scene. There are still pieces that are downstairs that are still tangible signs.
They need to auction those out.
I tried to get them to do that a few years ago, but they weren't trying to hear me because they've been talking about they're building a similar to what the Museum of Modern Images is doing. Kaufman has been talking about they have so much history in that building. I mean, so much of New York stuff has been shot there. I had an office there for 5 years, so I would go downstairs and try to steal stuff all the time from the Wiz. But then, you know, that's another story. But Black. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, at the Museum of Moving Image, we also have artifacts from the Wiz, like you know, some props, the camera, like the camera costume in a way, yeah, that someone danced in, and some of the production design drawings are in our exhibition for Behind the Screen. Yeah. So also cute dog, Tuffy. I like your dog.
Thank you. This is Risen. His name is Risen because I got him on Easter when he was a baby. So Christ is risen. This is Risen. And my daughter Taylor is in the car as well. She's the one who's helping me. She's the one who changed my name according to what you said with the dash. But I just want to say one more thing about the Wiz. One of the coolest days on set for me when I was shooting 100 Center Street is we had Nipsey Russell on as doing principal work. So being there with the director and one of the lead actors from the Wiz to me was just an ultimate day of, it was like a fantasy. And I have a tendency to sing every song from the Wiz often. I just can't help it. But I walked into Nipsey's dressing room and I was like, how often have you been back here? He said, this is probably the 6th time since we shot that because I tend to shoot outside a lot because I'm a physical actor. He said, and then with all the other studios that have been built around New York, he says, but whenever I come here, I sit back and I remember days shooting on the Wiz, and it was just amazing. And I love that. That was just a vibe that you can't get that back. Because God rest his soul, is a beautiful musical man. But the Wiz is definitely one of the joints that affect me. The Wiz to me is the Black 10 Commandments. But yes, Roots is one of the big ones. There's so many great Black films. Man, there's so many, and then I mean, Cornbread Earl and Me, and there are films that affected me that stay with me. You know, so many people know the Boyz II Men version of How Do I Say Goodbye, but for me the original is from one of the greatest films ever made. I'll be here all day talking about Black films from my childhood. I loved Claudine. I loved anything that showed us in a different light than the world was used to. And then I love Freddie Prinze. I loved shows that had Hispanics. I'm Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Black. So everything that showcased us in a different light, even if it wasn't always sometimes we were pimps, sometimes we were dealers, whatever the case may have been. But anything that gave us an opportunity to be other things, like Dolomite was a hilarious exploitation film, and we could talk a lot of bad about that. But he also that was his joint. He was in charge of that. He made that happen. Mm-hmm. So as much as he was a foolish everything, he was the man because he made leeway where there was no room. He made his own choices. And of course, I've worked with Spike, so I'm a Spike Lee fan all day, to an extent. We've had our goods and our bads, and I'm sure Saiku will tell y'all stories. But yes, I've known Spike quite a while, and I've been with him since the beginning almost. So I've been around it a long time. I've been blessed to be doing what I do.
Oh, tell Spike I said hi. Yes, Crooklyn is one of my favorite films. So yeah, but that's awesome. Yeah. I want to talk about television versus film production, I guess, next. And I wanted to say, like, you know, is there a preference for you, I guess, as film and television professionals, if you prefer either or you know, if you want to talk maybe about like the process or yeah, if you prefer either or yeah.
I'm gonna say for film and television, they're so different, but yet they're very similar. But for me, television, when you're producing for television, it has a lot more red tape along with it. You have a lot more networks you have to deal with. You have a lot more people weighing in. And being an independent filmmaker, you're like, oh, this seems right. This seems about good. So you get away with a lot more stuff, a lot more choices, just depending on who's funding it. But I do feel like creativity wise, there's a lot more room for flexibility instead of working in TV where there's a lot more people that have to weigh in and kind of, especially like you have your EPs, then you have the network, then you have other people that are affiliated with the brands. Like it's just, there's a lot of more things involved. So personally, I like film. I also like TV, but it's just, they're just different things to me.
I agree with that.
I think
the rules change.
She said if she I think Ayana had it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all agree with Ayana.
Okay. That's cool. Awesome. Well, my last question is, what advice would you give to upcoming filmmakers or anyone, you know, that's looking into joining this industry? Is there any advice you would give to those folks, maybe about like building community within, you know, film and television and how you did that? And any kind of advice you would actually give, yeah.
Well, from a creative standpoint, I would tell them not to compromise their story, but also have trusted eyes that they respect, look at it. Because if you just putting the stuff out there and you're the only one that's reading it or you're the only one that's seeing it, it's not going to be a very well told story. You need other eyes, you need other perspectives to look at it and to give their input, and you have to be open to what makes sense, and then you have to stand firm on what you're going to stand on, you know, and that way I think you get the best story. You wind up telling the best story because it's a collaborative effort, but then you staying true to the foundation of whatever it is that you want to make sure comes across. That's from a creative standpoint. From a business standpoint, I would say do as much on your own, learn as much as you can about marketing, promotion, editing, everything you could is online. This is the information age that you don't really have to take courses and pay a whole bunch of money for. You could almost YouTube any topic that you need and to do as much on your own as possible. Because the more you're able to do, you may not be able to be the best at doing what you are doing, but if you have some type of knowledge, it makes it easier for you not to get taken advantage of. For the price that somebody may even try to charge you, for the work that's being done, you'll know exactly what needs to be done. And it puts you in a more powerful position. For instance, with my documentary, Killing Beef, we own it 100%. So now we got the distribution deal with Synergon. We have a 70-30 split. We were able to deliver on the deliverables. This is our project, you know, and it puts you in a position that these big companies now, they calling us and they having conversations with every move that they get ready to make as if we partners, as if we bosses, as we are. So I noticed the difference in how they talk to you, how they respect you, when they know you own yours and that you're going to get it done with them or without them.
Love that. Create the content. That's my biggest concern. Create content, keep writing, do the rewrites. Don't be your own best script editor. Make sure you bring a good team together. I think that's one of, if I had any critique for Spike Lee, is that he is his own script editor. And that's why he will drum a thought into your head 487 times during the credits, let alone throughout the entire script and storyline. I think that a good script editor is so important. I think that a team is important, and I think you need to know the components of your team. I think that's one of the things we do wrong is we surround ourselves with people who look the part or sing the part but don't play the part. So you got to be really particular about your team. Your team is everything. Everybody doesn't have to have money, but everybody has to have the work ethic. Money will come, but the right team is everything. That's my best advice.
You know, I think my advice is like way before we even get to teams or anything. I think that if you want to do this, I think that you should actually volunteer for free and work on other people's set as much as you possibly can. Because the other piece is that one day you're going to ask somebody to help you. Okay. If you haven't put any sweat equity in this game yourself, why would, it's like, okay. Cause I mean, a lot of times when people want to make films, they're just looking at it from a glory standpoint. I'm going to be a director. I got this script, there ain't nobody read. Oh yeah. And then now I'm directing some actors. It doesn't work that way. Like you literally have to start from the beginning. And I'm not saying you need to stay at the low tier, like for all your life. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that it goes a long way to volunteer on other people's set. Not because you're gonna learn a lot of stuff, but then you're gonna also learn what you like and what you don't like, and what you want to do and what you're not really, good at, and where you want to just be, you know what? I think I can pay money to get this part done because I'm not really good at this part. Because the truth of the matter is, you can't make a film by yourself. And the sooner you realize that, you'll be good, but you got to volunteer. You got to put the juju out so the juju comes back to you.
So I do agree with that to an extent, because I have had situations where, yes, I volunteer on friends' projects and people's projects, but I do believe that everyone, even the lowest tier person, should be getting paid a little something, whether it's an exchange of like, oh, I can give you a gift card. I can do something like that.
Oh yeah, no, or a Metro card.
Or a Metro card. It definitely has to be an exchange. But I do believe what I tell everybody is, okay, well, maybe if you want to get into film and TV, the first step is PAing. PA, just like similarly to what, but just PA. So then you can talk to all these different people and all these different departments. That's how I learned where my trajectory was, because I'm a talker. I'll talk to anyone. And I just went around and I talked to people. I learned what I wanted to do. I learned what I wasn't willing to put up with. I learned I don't like lifting things in the grip and electric department. I need somebody, and I always use my line, I need a big, strong man to help me. I pull the lady card and I'm fine with that. But yeah, I know what I don't like.
Go ahead, Ayana.
So I do think that you should volunteer, but I think that you volunteer for your friends but for an exchange of something, not just for free, because there's so many times when people do take advantage of people just doing things for free. Like I've heard of people being like, oh yeah, I was assisting this producer for free. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, your time is worth something. Even if you're learning, your time is still worth something, and you should value yourself just like you should value your ideas and you're creative. So I really do feel like working in lower positions just to get in, great. But then you got to keep moving up. Like you don't want to be the world's highest paid PA.
Yeah. And there's actually a really good PA program in New York City. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the mayor's office one?
Yeah. And they give you all like really good training, but you have to have like no schooling.
Yeah.
That's the same. Yeah. That's a really good thing.
I've gotten PAs from there, and I've gotten really good
Oh yeah, it's a solid program. My friend was trying to, he got into the program, but he on some form he put down he had a master's of something, or he started a master's.
Oh,
yeah, so you yeah, and he was like, no, and so yeah.
The other thing that I do want to say and I didn't know this going into filmmaking or producing, is that there are so many initiatives out there. Like, apply for initiatives. Like, some of them are free, some are not free, but like, you just have to do your own due diligence, because no one's going to say, hey, there's this really cool filmmaking initiative that I heard about. As a matter of fact, like, I've heard initiatives of initiatives that I didn't get because I wasn't in film school, and they reach out directly to the film school students in the community, which is great. But there's a lot of talent that can't afford NYU. They can't afford to go to those schools. And for that to be a gatekeeper, that's not fair. So I think that if you have to do your due diligence, talk to your friends who are going to those film schools and getting those initiatives and being like, hey, have you heard of anything? But it doesn't hurt to apply. Like, all they can say is no.
Yeah. And think about City College. I got a master's in filmmaking from City College, and you can swipe it on your credit card because their tuition is dirt cheap if you're in New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. Like, who knew? I was walking down the street one day on 125th Street. They had a little bitty stand.
Yeah.
And I started talking to them, because I'm Ayana, I'm a talker too. And so started chatting with them, and they're like, oh yeah, we have a master's program in directing. I was like, what? And, and then they were like, it's like, I forgot the number. I was like, wait, what? That's like, like rent for like maybe 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay. Yeah. And they're always, and the program is really, it's a nice place to be, because there's all, everyone looks like you, but everyone comes from all different countries. And so cool. It's really a nice, solid, and it's 2 years you're in and out. That's if you didn't want to go to film school.
Right.
I was making films for 20 years before I decided, like, oh, I think I'm going to film school.
And a lot of people actually that I've talked to are like, yeah, I went to film school for the contacts, not necessarily because it was any better than a city college. It's, yeah, like I have one friend who went to USC Film, and she has great contacts, but she has a lot of debt.
Oh yeah, no, not City College. But the other thing about school, which is cool, is that it keeps you on a structure. You have to get this done. You got to get this done. And if you're a person that needs to just kind of be pushed to kind of keep deadlines, it's really cool. And then you can see everything. But I think the best education is literally working on a film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, that's when it all comes together. It's like, it doesn't even matter what theory or whatever you learned in film school. It's
and you can do that in tandem, like I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, these are great advice. Thank you. And also, if anyone wants to see the films, check out the film festival.
Yeah.
And Poetry Film Festival. And yeah, Felicia, your film is amazing. It's on the festival January 30th. And this is great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in this conversation. It was very insightful and great to hear from you, and thanks for taking the time to chat. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good seeing y'all.
Yeah, nice meeting you guys.
Yeah, nice to meet
you.
Hey, Tuffy, you on mute, Tuff? You on mute?
Happy Love Day. I love y'all. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet all of y'all.
Yes, Akuma.
Yes.
Blessings and hearts sent to all of y'all. Have a great weekend.
You too.
You too.
God bless. Thank you.
All right, peace.
Really great time. Peace.
Good one. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for watching this year's Black History Month Film Festival. Make sure to watch the first program on A.P.T. TV's YouTube channel. Take care and enjoy the rest of your Black History Month festivities.